Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I need you to be really excited about something. An evening with Jamie Glazov in Los Angeles, California on June 18th, 2024 at the Lux Hotel, 11461 Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles. It's a Freedom Center event. Mark it on your calendar. I'm going to be discussing my new book, Obama's True Legacy. Register at frontpagemag.com. You're going to see the announcement on the left-hand sidebar. Or just email Michael Finch at michael@horowitzfreedomcenter.org. It's going to be the event of a lifetime. It's going to be big. Hope to see you then. God bless.
This is a fan-generated show. If you'd like to support us, please go to jamieglazov.com. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our new Rumble channel. All your support is greatly appreciated.
Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. We have another fantastic show for you this evening with another fantastic guest. First, just a few in-house matters. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember we're a fan-generated program. We're only here because of you. And we are suffering, as always, tremendous deep state persecution, shadow banning, and everything that comes with that. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to our Rumble channel, press the bell, which is instant notifications. Visit us at jamieglazov.com and help us out there and tell everybody about it. Follow me on Twitter. And of course, also follow and support Annie Cyrus at liveuptofreedom.com. Backed by popular demand, and what an honor and privilege it is to have with us Trevor Loudon, a public speaker, political activist, and author of his latest book, Security Risk Senators. Trevor, what an honor to have you here.
Hey, look, it's a pleasure to be on, Jamie. Great to see you. Thanks so much.
There's about a million other things to say when one is introducing you. Do you want to add anything?
I'm from New Zealand. You said I'm from New Zealand. Look, I've also got another series of books about the Congress members out there now called House Un-Americans, and that's where we're profiling over 90 currently serving U.S. Congress members with their Marxist and radical Islamic backgrounds. So, what I basically say is there are no background checks in Congress, and our enemies use that to put their people into our government so they can get their way. That's the only thing that really explains how America is today.
Thank you, Trevor. You and I share something very much because I've always, from my childhood, for certain obvious reasons for those people who know my background, I've been very interested in the people in the West who are just ecstatically in love with the tyrannies that threaten the existence of freedom and democracy. I've always wondered what is their psychology? Why, even these many of these individuals on campus right now that are kneeling down and worshiping Allah and saying Allahu Akbar. And by the way, and not the Muslims, just the non-Muslim students. I've spent my lifetime studying their psychology because we know that when these people take over that they're worshiping, that these worshipers will be exterminated within about 60 seconds. And you have documented this, not just this psychology, but what these people are doing, especially in power, these traitors. This is more relevant now than ever. So tell us, Trevor, what's going on in your world and what's on your mind these days? Because we're in a time where the fifth column and the traitors are in power and they're succeeding very, very quickly and with great escalation.
Yeah, and I just quickly before I do that, I just want to say the reason I got studying communism is like you, Jamie, I couldn't figure out how smart, intelligent people could dedicate their life to an ideology that was going to kill themselves and their children. It's pretty hard to figure out, isn't it? But I think the best explanation is Milton's Paradise Lost. Why did Satan leave heaven? Because he'd rather rule in hell than serve in heaven. It's that egotistical, rebellious spirit where people just want to be in charge. They want to, act out their psychological problems on everyone else. And Nazism, communism give people that opportunity. They gravitate to it. But so you're right, Jamie. We're in a revolution now. We see that going slightly kinetic with.
And Trevor, can I just interrupt for one split second? What you have said is so profound. And I'll just add the footnote that they'll even give their own life for it. Because it's a religion. But in the end, it's a death wish, isn't it?
It's a death wish. It's if God is life, the devil is death. Yeah. And they have made a choice. But and you go back to Cain and Abel, Yeah. Abel was the good son, the loyal, the faithful, the hardworking, the honest, the generous son. Cain was the nasty, vindictive, self-centered, rebellious son who slew his good brother. Well, what we see, communism is the spirit of Cain. It is a spirit, it's vindictive, it's nasty, it's rebellious, it's egotistical. That's what we're seeing. We're seeing the attempt by Cain to slay Abel again.
And it's the pretension to equality. Cain's murder of Abel was the first communist revolution, wasn't it?
Exactly. I think we can see it in those terms because, it was to dominate, to overcome good, to make evil better than good. I'm going to kill the good. And that's what communists try and do. They try and kill everything that's good about America, everything that's good about Western societies, to establish their dictatorship. We're better than you because we control you. We can subjugate you. And if you don't like it, we'll subjugate you some more. It is the Cain, it goes back to Cain. If you want to understand communism, understand Cain and his motivations. Understand Satan's motivations. He was in heaven at God's side, but that wasn't good enough for him because he wasn't the boss. So he was willing to go to hell and take a whole bunch of people with him so he could be the boss. Now, that's a sick motivation, but that's the motivation of a lot of people, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely, Trevor. So what's happening in your world right now and what's on your mind?
Well, I'm focused on three or four things right now. I want to win this election, because we're in a Marxist revolution in America. All the phenomenon we're seeing, from the pro-Hamas riots to the open borders, to the woke indoctrination of the kids, to the radical transgender movement, to the destruction of our businesses through the environmental movement and the just Democrat communist policy after communist policy. This is a revolution. This is where we're at. So we've got to win the election. We have to win, because if we do not, the Democrats are going to legalize 10, 20, 30 million illegal immigrants and give them all voting rights. And then they're going to come down hard on us. They're going to come down real hard on their opposition. So it's our last shot, really. And I'm writing a couple of books. I've gotten the thing, and I'm doing a bit of spiritual reflecting too. What I'm thinking is we're going to need some help to get out of this mess. We're going to need some divine help. But God doesn't have a great history of helping cowards. What we're going to need to get out of this mess is faith and courage. In the book of Revelations, right at the end, there's a little chapter, and it talks about the people who go to hell, the lists of categories, and they have the idolaters and the murderers and the liars, but the very first two are the faithless, the cowards, and the faithless. Because being a coward tells God you have no faith. You live in fear because you have no faith. So if God hates the cowards and the faithless, does that not tell you he probably admires the courageous and the faithful? The Davids versus the Goliaths, the Gideon's army versus the hordes, the American revolutionaries versus the British. So I think we're going to need some divine help here, but we have to be courageous because we got to tell the truth. Telling the truth takes courage. Courage is proof of faith, and faith pleases God. If we're going to if we're going to hope for some miracles here, we got to step up, all of us individually, personally. I think this is a spiritual battle ultimately.
Thank you, Trevor. We're definitely on the same page at that. I hope I'm not intruding and you answer in the way you wish. Well, what I mean is in terms of faith, you've mentioned Cain and Abel. Now you're speaking about the spiritual battle. Is there any particular faith that you approach all of this with? Do you have a particular faith, a denomination?
Well, I was brought up in the Christian background. I've drifted away from that. I've come close. I wouldn't call myself Christian by the standards of today because I think there's so many things I disagree with in how Christianity is currently preached. I think it's very weak and watered down.
Okay.
But yes, from the Christian perspective.
Okay.
And so I see the world in those terms.
Okay.
And I look at Christianity as a heroic religion, as a masculine faith, but it's been feminized and corrupted by all the pansy pastors out there to the point that it's a virtue to roll over and surrender to evil.
Right.
You know, I think that's where a lot of it has got these days. And I think Christianity has to do a reversal and be the strong, onward Christian soldiers marching as to war philosophy that kept the faith strong for 2,000 years.
Thank you, Trevor. This isn't an interrogation in any way. I'm just wondering in terms of our dialogue. So you believe that Jesus Christ is our Savior?
Yeah. I believe Jesus Christ is divine, Son of God, but I do not. I have a lot of problem with the way Christianity is preached in the modern world.
No, I see what people do with it, what people have done with it. Right.
Yeah. Well, how it's
Trevor,
preached, not how it is, how it's preached.
Thank you. There's definitely, we're on the same page. I think there's definitely a spiritual battle right in front of our eyes. Let's get to a few of the specific things going on right now, and then we'll put some of the pieces into the puzzle. I think one evil thing definitely happening, even on a spiritual realm, is the war on the Jewish people. And I think Hamas, in my perspective, very much represents Satan and demons. And now we have, let's even discuss this here for a minute. The George Clooney's wife, I think her name is Amal Clooney, she plays a central role, key role, in the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants for Netanyahu. This is very interesting. First of all, I want to see where are the arrest warrants for Putin, for, the butchers that lead Iran. We can name several other tyrannies throughout the world, but for some reason it has to be Netanyahu. I don't know if there's arrest warrants for the leaders of Hamas or Hezbollah, but what do you make of this?
I think to appear fair, they have put arrest warrants for the leaders of Hamas as well.
Oh, have they? Okay.
Just to appear fair, but the real target is Netanyahu, clearly. That he is the target.
Yeah, we didn't see that very much in the news, which is interesting. So, well, what do you make of this? George Clooney's wife playing such a lead role in the ICC arrest warrants, but I don't see her making too many statements on behalf of the Israeli girls in Hamas tunnels being sexually brutalized and raped right now. I thought that the left was very much concerned about women's rights.
Well, see, this is the thing. The left is basically diabolical. The left lies and holds double standards as a matter of course. We on our side, we believe in honesty, telling the truth, and objective truth. They believe that truth is whatever serves the revolution. So lying is revolutionary truth. If you tell a lie that it serves the revolution, that's good. These people could pass lie detectors tests because they think they're doing the right thing. There's no conflict of conscience there because they have a totally different system of ethics than we do. Look, Netanyahu is doing exactly what America did after Pearl Harbor. You went after the enemy, followed them to their lair, and annihilated them as much as you possibly could to wipe out that threat until they surrendered. Hamas could stop this carnage tomorrow by surrendering. It's totally up to them. They could surrender and give themselves up, and no further civilians would die. That would be the end of it. Israel has 100% right to eliminate a constant ongoing threat to their survival. They have a duty to their people. The government of Israel has a duty to eliminate this threat. And for an international criminal court to say this is somehow wrong is like saying people have no right to self-defense. You have no right, if somebody harms you, you have no right to harm them to stop further harm. You must be an eternal victim, because this is what they want for Israel. They want to wipe Israel off the face of the map of the earth, but they need to have a moral justification for it, so to assuage public opinion. But so, I place no credibility in Amal Clooney or George Clooney or the International Criminal Court, any of it. It's all a left-wing propaganda exercise against one of the very few countries in the world that is actually willing to stand up for itself and take the necessary measures when their people are threatened. I say full credit to Netanyahu and the IDF and the people of Israel for working to eliminate this heinous threat. As I said again, if Hamas wants to stop the carnage, if they really do, which they do not, they want more victims, they can surrender tomorrow.
Absolutely, Trevor. In my lifelong journey studying this, and in my book, United in Hate, I documented all of this. When Stalin's purges were at its heights, the fellow travelers were flying over there, just in ecstasy, just worshiping Stalin, just at the peak of all the mass murder. Then they do the same with Mao. They do it with the North Vietnamese. They did it with Castro, with the Sandinistas. Whenever the enemy tyrants are involved in their savagery, the left is in ecstasy. And we see what Hamas did. And now you just look at the U.S. campuses and at Clooney and his wife. They're just in ecstasy supporting this mass murder. They're very, very sick people. And of course, as you said from the beginning, it goes back to Satan's rebellion and Cain's rebellion.
Look, these people are ego-driven. You look at these young, kids on the campus, they feel so important. They're standing up and they're so self-righteous. And this is why these people go and worship these thugs, because these thugs are the epitome of an uncontrolled ego. And they love that because that's what they're like. Like attracts like. We're repelled by egomaniacs, by people who just want power and want to destroy and crush. We're repelled by that. But certain people are so ego invested and so damaged that they're attracted like moths to a flame, and they will forgive these people anything. And the fact, the worse they are, the more they'll praise them.
Thank you, Trevor. Very profound. I'll add a footnote to that. You and I are on the same page at this. And in my studies, the historian David Potter, the sociologist Paul Hollander, they explained negative identification. And so these leftists are actually living vicariously through the sadism and the murder. So somewhere they're deriving immense satisfaction when Castro, well, in the past, but the Castros of the world tortured the dissidents. And now when Hamas is killing and raping Jews and Jewish women, there's something in the left which is actually living vicariously through this totalitarianism. It's very, very...
Doing that if they were in the same position.
And I often wonder, the leftists that have hated me throughout my life and yelled at me and screamed at me, I always wondered, okay, they can ban me from Facebook for now. They can kick me out of YouTube. They can yell at me at a party and at a restaurant. but what if they were in power and we were in another country? But I think that they're actually here now, because we see a lot of political prisoners in the United States today. Trevor, what do you make about Raisi and some of his comrades dying in that helicopter crash?
Well, hopefully it'll put, as I was discussing before, hopefully it'll put the any Iran nuclear deal on hold. Look, the fact that skyrockets and firecrackers went off all over Iran as the news was announced, I didn't hear any mourning. You know, it was all rejoicing, because the people of Iran hate these people. They despise their rulers. I saw a very, very moving video the other day. It was when Winston Churchill died in 1965, and it panned the Thames in London, and all of the cranes along the Thames, all this little building going, all of the cranes lowered their booms all along the river for miles, and everybody out came from their houses. They were crying, they had their hands on their chests. This was a whole nation in mourning. Well, we didn't see that for these guys in the helicopter, did we? We saw firecrackers, we saw skyrockets, because Churchill was an able guy. This was a Kane guy that died. And we got to work for a world where the Iranian people are as free as anybody, where they don't have the mullahs to worry about, and the Chinese Communist Party, the Chinese people don't have to worry about the Chinese Communist Party, and the Russians don't have to worry about the Putins of the world. You know, these are good people that deserve to be free as well. We should never forget that. Loving our enemies is helping to depose their tyrannical leaders.
Trevor, what's your gut instinct? Did Raisi get touched by Israelis? Did he get touched by the Khamenei faction that wants to get rid of the competition? Was it the Iranian dissidents? Was it just an accident? What was your feeling?
Look, I'm leaning towards an accident. He was flying a 50-year-old helicopter, and I'm guessing the maintenance standards in Iran are not high. And they're flying in a blizzard that they shouldn't have been flying in, and they flew into a mountain. That's my understanding of what happened. So I'm sure the Israelis could have taken them down had they chosen to. But look, they've been very restrained. You know, when Iran fired a whole bunch of rockets at them, they fired a few back, very well targeted, just to tell, and they got through all their defenses just to show we could do this. We're not going to, but we could. You better back off. So no, I don't think Israel did this. I don't think his enemies did this. I think it was an accident, but possibly a very fortuitous one for the Iranian people.
Our producer, Annie Cyrus, is an expert on these matters. My inkling is that she did not fall into a deep depression when Raisi died. Annie, what are your thoughts on this Raisi narrative? And do you maybe have a question for our wonderful guest?
Sure. Thank you, Jamie. So, one thing I would agree with Trevor. Yes, the biggest highlight and biggest headline from this news was Ibrahim Raisi, the president of Iran, dead, or those who knew better said Butcher of Tehran finally dead. But let's keep in mind there were 3 other people in that helicopter with Raisi, one of them being the foreign minister of Islamic Republic of Iran. And that is where the argument of added bonus for us here in America, because there will be an absolute hold on the negotiation, or better yet, indirect negotiations with Iran, because they're struggling to pick the next president and the foreign minister. Therefore, they won't be able to tap into the Biden regime desire to feed them more money, which could directly affect what's happening in Gaza border, because if Iran's not getting assets unfrozen or money, Hamas isn't getting the money or the weapons to continue attacking Israel. So both for Israel and America, death of foreign minister of Iran is much bigger news than the president being Raisi. That being said, I actually have information confirmed that you most likely will never hear the regime of Iran confirm it, because that will work against them. But this helicopter, quote unquote, accident actually was not an accident. After getting to safety before releasing the information, the engineer who worked on this helicopter prepping it was a cousin of one of the 21-year-old young man who was killed 2 years ago during the Mahsa Amini uprising in Iran. So this was not an accident. However, this was a retaliation from the opposition inside Iran, that anybody and everybody thinks they just went home, they went quiet. This was yet another uprising with no result. But when they went home, some of the leaders announced that we will not get our young people killed. We will change a strategy and go directly for those responsible for the suffering of people of Iran. And looks like the very first strategy was to take out Raisi, who was in line to become the next supreme leader of Iran, replacing Khamenei. So that's another part most people are uncovering. Raisi was the president. However, he had all the qualifications to be the next supreme leader and ultimate power in Iran. And that would have looked really terrifying for everyone, not just Iranians. So that's another point to celebrate. At Butcher of Iran.
Good points, Annie. You know, there's things there I didn't know. So whether it was an accident or deliberate retaliation, I think we all agree it's probably good for all of us at this moment.
Absolutely. It is definitely a great event for human society as one, because, Butcher of Tehran being the next supreme leader with ultimate power would have created way more suffering than Khamenei ever managed to inflict on human society.
Fair enough, too. Like Hitler going down in a plane with Mussolini, perhaps.
Exactly.
Well, I'll take that on board, Annie. Absolutely will.
Thank you, Annie. And you said that you had a question for Trevor, or?
I did have well, it's more of a just adding to, it was a little before this discussion, but I wanted to connect this as Trevor, you said, to win this situation we're in, we need courage and faith. And I can't help but to think, Trevor, with what just happened, as you said, either accident or elaborated attack with the helicopter, but this is where we can tap into having faith. God's timing.
That's exactly the point, isn't it? You know, if you those people who stood up against the mullahs, many of them died, many of them made huge sacrifices, but they showed courage, which will encourage others. But also, you know, God would look at that and say, these people are brave. These people want freedom. What can I do? What can I do to help? You know? And so I'm putting very crude terms. I'm being maybe a little bit flippant here, but I think miracles happen to people who show faith and courage. You know, like when David threw his little rock at Goliath, I'm sure God guided the rock, but David had to throw it, didn't he? You know, I honestly believe that the election of President Trump in 2016 was a miracle. But how many people had to work and work and work and work to make it happen? You know, I think, you know, all those lessons, you know, Gideon's army, courage and faith, they go together, and they're the root of many, many good things.
Absolutely. You literally completed what the sentence I was going for. Exactly. When you show courage and you show faith, God is on your side, and he will, as you said, he has the power to do whatever needs to be done. But are we as Americans, as followers of Christ, are we showing enough courage and faith to see the next miracle this year, next year, whenever it's due? That is the question.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so this defeatist idea, this rolling over, let's just accept all these horrible things, that is the wrong attitude here.
Thank you, Annie, so much for your profound insights, as always. We always have to keep this show going because there's certain people that help us. So we're going to take a quick break with our sponsors.
Looks like you've been sleeping well.
Megan, he's back! The My Pillow guy!
And you're looking good.
Still feeling good.
Well, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, we've got the best pillow ever, My Pillow 2.0.
Wow, it's so soft and smooth.
It's cool to the touch. How did you do that?
Well, we took My Pillow's patented fill and combined it with this new technology that we didn't have back then when I invented My Pillow to bring you the best pillow in history, My Pillow 2.0. Just like all of you, I never imagined that My Pillow could get any better. That's why I haven't changed it in nearly 20 years. Then I heard about a revolutionary new technology, and I knew I had to bring it to you all. My Pillow 2.0 is truly the next generation of My Pillow.
The My Pillow 2.0 is cooler and softer than the last My Pillow. It is so comfortable to sleep on at night. I look forward to going to bed, and I wake up well rested in the morning.
Sleep is all about temperature and height. My Pillow 2.0's patented adjustable fill is going to give you the exact individual support you need from your head to your bed. And now here's where it gets even better. We've all experienced those temperature-related sleep interruptions where you get too hot, you toss and turn, you flip your pillow over to the cool side. Well, all that's gone with my brand new My Pillow 2.0 cooling fabric that's made with temperature-regulating thread.
The best sleep just got even better. Whether you have a My Pillow or not, you need to get the brand new My Pillow 2.0. Call or go to mypillow.com now. Use your promo code, and for a limited time when you buy one, you'll get a second one absolutely free.
You're sleeping even better.
And cooler, too.
And you're looking good.
Feeling good.
I knew you would.
Visit mypillow.com.
And that's right. Make sure to go to mypillow.com or mystore.com and use promo code GG21. You can get a discount of up to 60% off on all the amazing products. And it helps both Mike Lindell and the Glazov Gang. And if you like the one-of-a-kind handmade art, make sure to go to lutfstudio.com and purchase resin art pieces made by the one and only our producer, Annie Cyrus. Use promo code GLAZOF to get special discounts. And we are back with our great guest, Trevor Loudon. Trevor, how is your pillow treating you?
Good. I actually have a Mike Lindell pillow, and I do find it very comfortable. Yes, I do. So, yeah, by all means, keep promoting them. And because we all want to help Mike. He's been a hero. He's stood up for us. And we all need a good night's sleep. And so there's two ways of getting good night's sleep. Work hard and do what you need to do and what you should be doing, and then lie on a very comfortable pillow. You do those two things, you'll have the best sleep you possibly can.
We have a fantastic new clip for our commercial and commercials for Mike Lindell's pillows. Thank you, Trevor. Trevor, what do you make of these I don't even know what to call them, court cases or trials? I mean, against Donald Trump. It's very painful to watch. These are kangaroo courts. This is third world country stuff. Huge injustice happening in front of our eyes, right?
Yeah, well, and I think I think there are two purposes here, and these are clearly politicized trials. The whole country knows this, but this is the point. It was like the whole country knew that Jeffrey Epstein didn't commit suicide. But the point is, we can commit a crime, and what are you going to do about it? We can do anything we want now. So you should back off. Well, what they're trying to do here is tie Trump up as much as possible, rub conservatives' faces in it, and they are hoping somebody's going to lose the plot and do something really stupid or really violent. They just, especially if they put Trump in jail, which I do not put beyond them at all. You know, whatever the merits of the case, we don't know how the jury is going to come out on this latest case. We don't know how they've been selected. We don't know. We haven't seen the evidence up close. We don't know. But if they can put him in jail, They want to trigger people. They want a few people to just go mental and do something violent. Then they can say, look, we told you, Trump faced justice. His supporters are so crazy. They can't stand it. They're violent. They're dangerous. They're a threat to democracy. We need to get the organs of the state chasing these people down because they're a threat to this country. This whole narrative of Christian nationalism and the threat from the right that has been coming out of the FBI and the Justice Department is pure fantasy, but they are working to rub our noses in it, hoping somebody's going to snap. I think that's a very critical part of what they're doing.
Yeah, they're trying to get him killed, right?
Yeah, well, they absolutely, that would be even better. But for them, but they're trying to get us to snap too. They're trying to intimidate most of us and infuriate the hotheads. So the hotheads do something that can be used as an excuse to crack down on their enemies. It's a provocation. It's a provocation, is how I describe it.
But Trevor, if they, no matter what they try to do here, can they stop him from running? And I mean, we see him getting 100,000 people in New Jersey. We see tens of thousands in NYC. Can they, if he can somehow, if there can be a miracle and they can't manipulate the elections either, and the election, could he still get into office no matter what they do in terms of these trials?
If he was in jail, it would be a lot harder, wouldn't it? You know, you can't really campaign. People have won elections from jail before, but it's not an easy thing to do. If they can put him in jail, they will. Absolutely. For two reasons, as I stated, to stop him campaigning and to infuriate his base and intimidate the rest. So I that's what I think they're for. You know, we all know the worse they persecute him, the bigger his rallies get. You know, we see that, and this must infuriate the left. The left believes their own narratives. They think they're right and that we're just stupid. But if they put Trump in jail and convict him, people will realize that he was in the wrong and that they're in the wrong. You know, so you know, but this is part of what we've all got to be working here. We've got to be supporting Trump. We've got to be keeping the flame going. You know, it's as much down to us as it is to him. And as he says, you know, they're not coming after him; they're coming after us. That's just that he is in the way.
Trevor, you're an expert in how our enemies, the Russians, the Chinese, how they infiltrate our country, and they don't just infiltrate the left. Unfortunately, there's some disturbing things even happening within our conservative movement when it comes to the Chinese, when it comes to Russian propaganda. What's happening on that front?
Yeah, well, I deal a lot at the moment with the Russian propaganda, which is really amped up since the beginning. Well, before the Ukraine war started, but since it's gone into overdrive. I joke that there are three main elements in the Earth's atmosphere. There are nitrogen, oxygen, and Russian propaganda. And I'm not sure which is the most prevalent. What has happened, there's been a massive Russian propaganda campaign since the 90s to portray Putin as a Christian, as a Christian, as a conservative, as a defender of the faith, someone who will defend Europe against the Muslim hordes and George Soros and Klaus Schwab and the globalists. Because the Russians have always had the left. They still have the loyalty of the communist parties to this day, because the communist parties of Western Europe and America believe that Putin is a communist, which he is, and he's going to overtly bring back communism to Russia in the near future. That's what they believe. But you've got millions of American conservatives and Christians who believe that he's actually the good guy, that he's defending Christianity, and that he is, you know, that we shouldn't help Ukraine because Ukraine is horrible and corrupt and evil. look, everybody who's lived in America for the last few years should understand the power of communist propaganda. Half of America believes that Trump said things like all Mexicans are racists, are rapists, that he said things that, he's there's all these lies about Trump that probably a third of America believe. That's communist propaganda. We all see that. Well, apply that to Ukraine. What have the Russians been doing to Ukraine? They've been demonizing Zelensky in Ukraine the same way they've been demonizing Trump and his supporters for the same reason. Ukraine is what is stopping Russia from invading Europe. America is what is stopping Russia from invading the world, in partnership with their Chinese allies. So, yeah, but you've got the Marjorie Taylor Greens of the world who, a lot of these people I love. I've got on very well with Jack Posobiec. I've been very friendly with Steve Bannon. I've been, I've admired a lot of things Tucker Carlson did. But all of those people have swallowed a large dose of Russian propaganda.
Yeah.
You get Tucker Carlson going to Moscow, comparing the prices in Moscow supermarkets to America. You get him interviewing Alexander Dugin, the Nazi, the head of the National Bolshevik movement, the one who wants to annihilate Ukraine and not annihilate the United States, who publicly says this and portrays him as this dear old Santa Claus type of figure, as a Christian, the guy's a KGB operative, and then he gets on and says, "I'm rooting for Russia." This is his exact words. "I'm rooting for Russia," and he's regarded as, those guys and a few others have brought Russian propaganda into the American conservative movement. And they've played on our disgust at the endless wars, and they've, they've played Americans very well, put it that way. Tulsi Gabbard is another very good example of this program. So, yeah, I'm very concerned about the penetration of the right by Putin and his allies. It's very dangerous. It's dividing the movement. But I am very glad that the Republicans actually stood up and finally passed that aid bill to Ukraine and Israel and Taiwan recently. I think that was a major victory for the forces of freedom and a major repudiation to Marjorie Taylor Greene and the Putin Republicans.
Thank you, Trevor. Our clock is winding down here. I wanted to make sure we at least talk about Obama for a sec, because you contributed some very profound, powerful essays to our recent book on Obama, Barack Obama's True Legacy. And I've been, I think about Obama, and I know you do, and I think that he's very much at the core of the downfall of the United States, and even what's happening right now. And I recommend everybody go read Barack Obama's True Legacy, and especially Trevor's contributions to our book. Trevor, one thing I wanted to ask you is, definitely there's a third term going on right now of Obama's. But it's interesting that Obama is not really touched. Even within the left, they can criticize a lot of their own people, but they never touch Obama. And even a lot of conservatives are afraid. Yes, there are some brave voices, but there's something untouchable about Obama. And I've been thinking he represents a kind of leftist God, also just in terms of being black, being ethnic, arguably perhaps even with some of the evidence that's come forward, either homosexual or homosexual friendly. There's so many realms there that he's worshipped as a god. Is it a kind of blasphemy is it a sort of blasphemy to criticize him, and that's why so many people recoil? Is there a fear of retaliation? What is it with this guy? Because you would think that a lot more would be being said.
Well, look, if you look at Nelson Mandela, the liberator of South Africa, a Central Committee member of the Communist Party USA, a leader of the ANC's military wing who ordered the bombings of supermarkets and railway trains that killed many people. But most people have no idea of this. Martin Luther King, who was absolutely deeply in bed with the Communist Party and did some pretty horrendous things in his personal lifestyle. But you cannot touch either of those figures because they've been made into demigods. And Obama is very much in the same category, which I think was the big motivation for writing the book, to stop this happening, to expose Obama for what he is, which is a lifelong communist who's done massive damage to this country. It was Obama who set the stage for the open borders that we have now. It was Obama that fired 200 good generals and weakened our military, which has basically encouraged the Chinese and the Iranians and the Russians to go on the warpath. All of these things, he is Obama that set the stage for the mass indoctrination of our kids and the transgender movement. All of these things have done massive damage to America, but it's never sheeted home to him. It's never, because he is being put out there as this demigod, the untouchable one. And can you imagine when he dies, how many roads, if the left gets control, how many Obama boulevards and Barack streets and that we're going to have all over America? This is what they did to Cesar Chavez, the same thing.
It's just interesting that in terms of what Larry Sinclair was saying, then it came out also in terms of Obama in the past talking about all that, homosexual stuff. I'm just saying, why wasn't this more talked about? I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying you would think that the Anderson Coopers that are so concerned about Stormy Daniels, that at least there would be a comment about some of this stuff.
Oh, look, there's there's two standards of morality, our one and their one. And it's very different, look, Obama was made to be a savior. He was made to be a Christ-like figure. And Michelle is the Virgin Mary, basically.
Yeah, it's a cult of personality, right?
A cult of personality, 100%. And so no blemish should be reported. It'd be like talking about the Virgin Mary's acne or something. It'd be just so impolite,
And so a lot of conservatives also don't want to engage in blasphemy against their opponent, right?
Well, this is why conservatives will not touch Martin Luther King. They will not touch they'll praise Nelson Mandela, who was a communist till the day he died. But they will, Mandela did this, Mandela did that, and what a great figure, and what a hero, and whatever. But yet, real brave guys who actually did something for America, like Joseph McCarthy and J. Edgar Hoover, are absolutely demonized. These are the guys who held back the revolution, who gave us the freedoms that we still have today. They should be American heroes, but they're not. They are the demons, and the people who work to destroy America, like Obama, who absolutely worked, is a demigod. This is what communists do.
Yeah, and Trevor, in terms of what Hamas did, just did, when we look at Obama's record, the way he empowered Israel's enemies, you would think this would be more talked about.
Yeah, it is, but there's certain things you're not allowed to talk about in polite company because they have made deities of these people. This is, communism is a religion, and these are the communist saints.
Yes.
And you cannot speak ill of a saint. Even if that saint is carrying a pitchfork and has got a tail at the back, And so that's exactly what's happening. The heroes, the real heroes are demonized. The real heroes of human liberty are demonized, like our founding fathers are now demonized. All we ever hear about is the fact they owned slaves. Nothing of the great things they did for America. Nothing of the heroism and faith and courage they had. We hear nothing of that. They're demonized. And this is how communists work. This is how revolutions work. Revolutions must have their heroes. If you're on the side of the revolution, no matter what your faults, you'll be made into a hero. But if you're opposed to the revolution, no matter what your virtues, you'll be made a demon.
And Trevor, thank you so much for contributing to our book on Obama and all the essays in there that are just, they're really horrifying narratives. This guy has done so much damage to this country, and he continues to, and we'll continue this story. Our time is running out. It is always not right to end a show without the wisdom of Annie Cyrus. Annie, did we miss out on anything, or would you like to throw a little conclusion into our show tonight?
Well, it's really hard to wrap up a program when you have Trevor with all the wisdom and information he has. So to answer your question of did we miss anything, I'm sure we could go for another 4 hours and still be informed. But I do actually want to ask one last question from you, Trevor, concluding from the beginning to the end and everything you mentioned. What are the chances, the best way I can phrase this, what are the chances or the possibilities of, in any shape or form, for the communist, socialist, Democrats themselves to possibly want to come to terms with another 4 years of Biden?
Well, if you're looking at the hardcore socialist base, yes, they're perfectly okay with it, because the worse America gets, the closer the revolution is. Just like some Christians, the worse the country gets, that means Jesus is closer. So they're actually happy about that. Well, the communists have the same philosophy. The worse America gets, the closer the revolution is. So they're happy about that. But the grassroots, ordinary, next door neighbor Democrat, a heck of a lot of them are disgusted. And like, I go to meetings all around the country and I speak all over the place. And every meeting I go to, yeah, I was a Democrat till 2 years ago, not anymore. I was a Democrat up to my daddy was a Democrat, my granddaddy was a Democrat, I was a Democrat, not anymore. I've had people come up to me and say, I was a communist till a year ago, not anymore. I'm seeing where this is going. I'm seeing Trump's given a different perspective. He's shown what a president who loves the country can actually do, that a life improves for people. I'm changing. I'm switching. I see this commonly all the time, not just anecdotally. People tell me this.
Well, thank you, Trevor. And thank you, Jamie, for including me in this wonderful discussion.
And thank you, Annie, for everything. So, Trevor, we got to run now. Maybe under 30 seconds, what are your final words of wisdom, or what message do you have to our viewers?
I want to just sum it up and say, if we want to get out of this mess, it's faith and courage. We've got to believe we can. We've got to believe there's a just God in the universe. And we've got to believe that our role is to do his will and make this the best place it can be, to stand up for freedom and stand against evil and tyranny. That's our role, and every one of us is just important as the other in what we can do. Every one of us has got certain abilities. It's what we do with what we have, not who we are.
Amen. Thank you, Trevor, so much for joining the Glazov Gang this evening.
Thank you so much. Thanks very much. Thank you to Annie.
Hope to see you again soon. Ladies and gentlemen, please go to trevorloudon.com. Follow Trevor, support him, and check out all his important work. And we'll see you soon on the Glazov Gang. Good night.